We always look forward to an opportunity to spend some time with Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who's taking time out of his day. Congressman, good morning to you.
Man, what's going on?
How you doing this morning?
Pretty good. I'd say about a quarter cup deep of coffee, and I got more to go. But I think the brain's on. I think it can work now.
I'm glad.
When do you have your first cup? What time? Because you have to get up really early.
Yeah, 3:15 is when I get up. First cup is at 5.
You probably have like one of the first cup at 2. Like it starts kind of feeding into you before you wake up.
Well, my wife has gotten pretty good with the needle and the drip, and it works pretty nicely. I don't even need an alarm anymore. That's it.
That works out perfectly then.
Spring right out of bed. Yesterday we all watched with great interest, sorrow, respect, and more the funeral for President George H.W. Bush. You were there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this. I mean, this was a headline in our paper this morning, "For a Day, a Kinder and Gentler Nation," and that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it was one of the most, I'm not exaggerating, one of the most incredible things I've ever done in my life. And, I've never been at an event in the National Cathedral, and the acoustics in there are amazing. And just the power of, walking by me 2 feet away was President Trump and his wife, President Obama, President Clinton, President Carter. Everybody who's anybody in my lifetime in watching politics and also my time in politics was there. And, paying respects to a man that, and I have to be quite honest, I'm embarrassed because you don't think about George H.W. Bush a lot when you think of the past. I think, because he was kind of sandwiched in between Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Obama, who are all kind of very powerful personalities. And he was kind of the guy that did a lot but didn't take a lot of credit. And to hear his life and to remember, what he did was, I think, it was amazing. I cried a number of times, and I especially broke down when George W. did.
Yeah, that was to me, other than Bob Dole with some assistants standing up out of his wheelchair to salute.
Yeah,
that to me was the most powerful image of all of them. But the moment when George W. Bush, when emotion got the better of him during his eulogy, that was powerful. And
I'll tell you, I sat probably, I'm going to say 30 yards away from Bush when he spoke, and maybe a little less. But what I couldn't see, I could hear, and you can see him, but you can't see the depth of emotion. And I came back and watched the speech actually on YouTube. And I saw that he was choked up the whole time. But that very end, when he's like the best father a son could ask for, and he talked about he just wanted to hold Barbara's hand again. And it really, for me, without kind of being too emo about the whole thing, but it really kind of drove home to me a couple things. Number one, there can be honor in politics. You can love your spouse and still be in politics. This idea that, politicians have to go out and live a crazy life isn't true. You can be an honorable person, and you know what? You can lose. You can lose and be fine. And it was one of the most amazing things I've ever done.
Yeah, and some of the stories that would come out, we've talked before on the show about how letter writing is an absolute, almost to this point, lost art, and if not, it's on life support at this point. Here was a man who was a prolific letter writer throughout his entire life.
Yeah. He would write look, this makes me feel terrible, but, when I have to write letters, I'm just kind of like, it seems like a chore.
Right.
I want this to inspire me to do more of that because, if you get an email, if I send you an email or you send me an email, that's one thing. But if I actually get a handwritten letter from you, and I've never gotten one from you, by the way. You've never sent me a handwritten letter.
You will. Now, if we've had this conversation, you will.
Okay, great. But, once you get one of those, it's just something special, and it shows that somebody took the time and thinks about it. And, again, it's one of those where, we deal with this kind of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000-foot topics out here in D.C., and it was a good reminder that there are humans behind policymaking, even ones you disagree with, and all this policy affects humans. It's just all in all, when this is all said and done, it's just a bunch of people trying to navigate this life. That's all it is.
That's a great way of looking at it, and some do it better than others, and some do it with a higher level of class than others do. But that's basically what it's about. Let's see if we can get through this thing as well as unscathed and trying to make things right as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was nice to see the gathering, as you mentioned, everybody throughout many people's lifetimes who are still with us, involved in the political realm, showing up to pay their respects. I thought Brian Mulroney, I thought his talk was outstanding.
Yeah.
A lot of people had a lot of interesting things and things that most people didn't know about that they shared.
Yeah, and, the pastor was great, and him talking about Jim Baker rubbing the president's feet at the end of his life. That got me choked up, and, the idea of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples and just kind of all that, and it was incredible. And, there's going to inevitably be, because there already has been, I've already been asked about it by different news outlets, was this all basically a swipe at President Trump? It wasn't.
No.
Brian Mulroney, because he mentioned NAFTA, but he also mentioned it's now renegotiated and better. And, the fact, there were major differences in how George H.W. Bush carried himself than how Trump does. But that doesn't make Trump wrong or right or Bush wrong or right. It's just, let's celebrate the man that was there at the time who brings what the country needed at that moment. And I'm sure people are going to try to turn this, as they always do, against President Trump. It was an amazing celebration of a humble man's life, and not every president can be like George H.W. Bush was, but he was the right man at the right time.
And you talk about an interesting life and the things that took place over this man's life and things that he was involved in, going all the way back to defying his parents and signing up for the Navy and the most hazardous duty he could find during World War II. And thereafter, ambassador to China, director of the CIA, vice president, president, and there's 1,000 other things in there as well.
Yeah, I just walk out of that like, man, I haven't done anything. And, this is a man that got shot down, 18-year-old pilot, which, I was a pilot. When I went to pilot training, I was 24, I think, and I couldn't imagine doing it at 18, and then having men I fly into combat with for life and death, and but that's what changes people. And, people ask me a lot, about veterans in Congress. And I say, look, being a veteran doesn't make you magical, and it doesn't give you any special, vision or insight. But I think what it does do, no matter where you are in the political aisle, is I think it kind of gives you a bit of a broader reality that this stuff affects something bigger than your political career. So my political career is going to end someday, whenever that is. My life's going to end someday. And I will be forgotten with the exception of if you pull up, the Wikipedia page in the future and look at the 16th District of Illinois. But the impact I can leave in those I love and in my country is something that goes with me forever. I'm going to I'll go off into eternity and spend my life with the Lord and enjoy that. But knowing I made an impact is what matters here.
Absolutely. And it was a great way to look at it. It was nice to see so many people of such wildly divergent political thought and action all sitting together, except for one person, it seemed. Everybody was there to get along. Everyone was there to put political differences aside.
Yeah. Yeah, Hillary didn't do a lot of handshaking, but we'll save that for another day.
No.
But, it's like the old pictures, too, of W giving Michelle Obama mints. It's so stupid, but it's funny, and it just shows that kind of human side of things.
It does, and just as a routine American, it was nice to tune in and see those things.
Yep,
that's going to put us out of time. There's other topics to be talked about, but that really, I think, was the primary one. I wanted to get your take on having been there as well yesterday.
Yeah,
thanks for carving some time out of your day. I'll look forward to the next time we can get together and talk, and I will be sending you a handwritten letter.
All right, sounds good. I'll send you one back.
There you go.